probably not in real gold in the original. Oh yeah? Right. Is that an idea? Where? Baka, yeah, I would love to come. Thank you so much. Okay, so there's a topic that I usually revisit every few years because it's so important, and every once in a while there's new new things to add to it. The topic is how do we know what we really want? Is the mission in and of itself, and it's related to this week's parsha because in Chassidus this is usually explained on the words "Lo tevaru esh b'chol moschotechem b'yom Shabbat." Moshe Rabbeinu, as he's commanding us to go ahead and build the Mishkan, so he also says that building the Mishkan does not supersede keeping Shabbos, even though in the Mishkan itself, and in the Beis Mikdash also, there's no Shabbos for it. They do everything that's needed to be done like it's a normal weekday. But preparing the Mishkan, building it, doesn't supersede the Shabbos. So it's a special prohibition not to kindle fire on Shabbos. And it says specifically b'chol mosvotechem, in all the places that you dwell, to exclude the Mishkan, which is not a place where somebody dwells. Nobody lives there. And that's why in the Mishkan you don't have to keep Shabbos. There's no Shabbos. So how is this related to what do we really want from ourselves? We'll get to it as we advance. First, to be able to get into this topic, we have to ask, how do we usually know what we want? And if we needed to translate want into something in our model of the psyche, so what would it be? What part of the psyche wants? So how do we usually know what we want? So there's what we need that we know. So how do we know what we want? That's how you want something? Well, how do you know beforehand though? So it's basically it's advertised, right? It's advertised, and we get a sense that this is a good thing. Yeah, basically, how do you know about something new that you want or you don't want? You see it, you hear it. Somebody tells you it's a good thing to want it. For instance, when I grew up, suddenly somebody said it's a good thing to want to put tefillin on every day. It's a good thing to want to daven every day. I didn't know for myself. I didn't have knowledge of that from the inside somehow. Maybe I did, but certainly didn't come out until somebody told me about it. So most of the wants that we have, they're fueled by the external reality. Okay, they're fueled by our contact with the world. There's a lot of things. If I had no contact with them, I would never think of wanting them. That's not about what I need. I breathe also. But breathing is not exactly because somebody told me that it's a good thing. It's a need. I eat, drink, but to want to eat some particular food that's already some kind of advertising. So really, most of what we want is a product of our interaction with the world. And like you said already, that's the keter, that's the crown, because the crown contains also will. Except that here we're talking about the lower will. What's the lower will? The lower will is the will of the heart. If you want, in the language of Chassidus and it's called the Uta Deliva. Usually when people hear Uta Deliva and Chassidus, they're like, wow, everybody knows that there's such a thing, that the Uta Deliva is greater than Gilui Liyai. That what you want in your heart is greater than what Eliyahu Navi can reveal to you. So usually you hear Uta Deliva, it sounds like very, very supernal, very high. And here I'm saying it's just a result of coming in contact with the world. But what is this saying? It's saying that what you gain in terms of your will, what develops in your will from observing, from coming in contact with the world, is actually higher than anything that you could receive from some supernatural source. That's the approach of Chassidus, that what you have in your contact with the world is more important and more revealing to you than even the highest revelation, not the highest one, it's not exactly a prophecy, but it's a very high revelation, and Eliyahu Navi comes to you and reveals something to you. And a lot of people are constantly seeking some kind of spiritual enlightenment, seeking a type of Gilu Eliyahu, a type of revelation of Eliyahu Navi. But they're missing the point, because really what's being revealed to you all the time is actually higher than that, if you can turn it into will, if you can turn it into something that has to do with your heart and what your heart wants. So obviously you've hit upon something, but there has to be a higher will also. I mean, that there can't just be this will. As great as this will is, it's not yet the highest will that I can arrive at. But I really wanted to find a story to impress this upon us. So, I couldn't figure something else. Maybe it'll come as we advance. So most of the will that I have, most of what I think I want, is a product of my interaction with the reality of other people. Now that's true for what I want in the physical realm, and it's also true for what I want in the spiritual realm. Give an example that is quite common. That people who study a little bit of spirituality, they come to a place where they decide that I should be able to have very high divine revelation. Where do they get this idea? They read it in a book called Vetus. They read in a book. It must be possible to reach this level of clinging to God. And some people are so moved by this that they actually, when they're told that was in previous generations, they can't relate to it. They have to invent this whole thing that they have, their own invention, to try to show, no, it's here right now at this moment. Why? Because they read in a book. Somebody told me that there is such a thing. Why is it that I can't do it? It says in the book that most of the things saw they were burning the book. Why can't I see it burning? Maybe I can see it. I read it. Maybe I can see it also. And if I can't see it, maybe I'll invent a burning book. And if I don't have my own burning book, maybe I'll just reinterpret it. Or maybe I'll just go crazy, whichever one I want. And people must lose their lives because they can't understand that just because somebody relates it in a book doesn't mean that you can necessarily also do it. You're asking, why do they relate this in the book? Okay, well, we can discuss that in a different context, but not everything that it says in different places means that this is also something that I can attain. What I'm trying to say is that spiritually speaking, we're in the same boat we are physically speaking. That most of what we want is based on what we encountered or what was told to us by other people. And it's very hard for us to come to want something original, or as it's called, authentic. Because usually you've got in your head, well, there's all these people, they have, the same way, it's the guy, the same thing. The other guy's got, such a great life because he has A, B, C, and D, physically. And this person has such a great life because he has A, B, C, and D psychologically and spiritually. So I want the same thing. I want the same reality. And it's very hard to come to a place where I want what I really find to be essential, or essentially connected to me. Not just because somebody told me about it, not just because I saw it by somebody else, but really because it has something to do with it. And a lot of life is spent around these things, and reaching all kinds of mistaken conclusions about what we should be doing and how to be doing it, and running and pursuing things that maybe they're not even related to us. We just do it because they've been advertised as good. So what we want to talk about is how do you reach this higher will where things are essential and not just a product of interacting with the world, interacting with people. It's not to say that everything that I see by other people is wrong for me. I'm just saying that that doesn't make it essential. And to find it essentially, to find it inside myself is a different story altogether. And I'll say even more than that, that now let's start getting into the specifics of this, that when I am being driven by other people's accomplishments, by their belongings, what they seem to have, so basically I'm revolving around them. So I become the planet that's revolving around some kind of sun, which is not a bad thing. There's something to learn from that. What is it to learn from the fact that the planets revolve around the sun? What do the sages, what does Chassidus learn from this? Learn from this something very deep. That there is such a concept called bitul. What does bitul mean? Nullification. Just yesterday somebody asked me, people that were students, describe some situation where he's in a family that has a very strong hierarchy. Like there's the elder grandfather who's like the patriarch, and then all the sons and the daughters, he commands them, and they do. And by the way, they're not even starting the politics, and comes with a lot of, and so basically he's like the sun, and everybody revolves around him. So you take a modern person, this guy, he's the third generation, and he married into the sun, he's not even from it. So now he's got like two generations of do this and do that, because like the sun is the grandfather, and then the planets are his children. And then the offspring from there, they're already the satellites of the planet. And so it's interesting because when the grandfather says he doesn't have a problem, because he's like such a patriarch. But if one of the planets tells him, so this is so what are you supposed to learn from this situation? It's a very tough thing. And it's part of living in society in general, which is there's always somebody above you, right? Maybe some people think Gigi doesn't have anybody above him. He does. He has. It's almost circular. To have somebody above you, really, to say that I'm revolving around somebody else, is there to teach you different. That's all it is. Just to show you what it means to serve something. No, but let's say he really is. So how did he get there? Because he was once a satellite himself. Meaning, basically my advice to him was that you have to decide. If you want to continue this way of life, then your turn will come. If you want to depart from it, that's also an option. But then know that you won't be able to do the same thing with your kids. It's not, what do you mean? It either is or isn't. Right. Right. Yeah, so it's weaker. So it's weaker. It's weaker. He's only reflecting light from somewhere else. But one day the patriarch dies. And you become the patriarch. Are you a good one, a bad one? That already depends on, I would say, on how well you did how well you played your role. So basically there's a transmission that's going on. As hey, look, there's a modern times now, and people don't like acting, they don't like living in this type of chamula, or whatever you want to call it. So there's a lot of people that part from it. But then understand, like a close-knit family, like a really large close-knit family, like a tribe. But know that if you depart from it, don't expect yourself to ever be able to recreate it, because it just doesn't come out of nowhere. To recreate it, you have to really be like a son, like somebody who's really special. But even if you're not special, just the fact that you're part of a long succession, eventually it'll be your role. I told them, even if you're really smart, then you become like an enlightened king. And then you say, yes, true that I'm the son, but my most important task in life is to get other people to be sons also. And sons in the sense of luminaries. That I would like to change the course that we're going. I would like to enact new resolutions and new edicts and build a whole democratic system or whatever it is. You'll only be able to really do that if you play the role long enough until you come into that position. Same thing with halacha. Right? What's the problem with with the reform movement? Some people say is right, but you can't do it when you're outside the system. You have to be the Talmud of somebody who's a Talmud of somebody. You can't come out of nowhere. Because in the end, Yiddishkeit and most things in the world are experiential. They started from an experience. The experience that we have is called Har Sinai. Then Hashem revealed himself to us. And Moshe talked to us, and so on. And from that experience on, you have to be the next in the chain of succession. If somehow you leave the chain, you can't really expect anybody to listen to you. You can do whatever you want. Maybe some people try to hurt you, but in general, you can do whatever you want. Okay, so it's not so bad. What I'm trying to say is that it's not so bad that we find ourselves conforming to a lot of what's going on in the world. Because really what we're doing is we're showing that we're part of, we also have some bittul to what's going on. We're not completely out there. And we're not just some comet, an intergalactic, interstellar comet that's between stars and has no home. I have a home. And in my home I play a certain role. So I play a certain role in the country that I live in the city that I live in the family, and so on. But all those are not me. What do I have to, what would it mean to be really me? To find out what I essentially want. To find that higher will. So I have to come to a place where I'm the unmovable. I have to come to a place where I have to check whether everything is revolving around me or not. The other way around. I mean, from one who's revolving around other things, to come to a place where I have complete rest. Where I can be completely rest, and everything revolves around me. And what do I mean by revolves around me? So I'm not talking here about being the center, like you were saying. Now I'm talking about that I become the center and everything revolves around me. The question is, can I be at rest and feel that things are still moving? That I don't have to move them. They'll move by themselves. That's find that place in myself where I can be at rest and everything will continue to move. It won't stop. And if I wasn't, I don't know, but it's still moving. Right? I'm not moving it. I'm not moving. It's not necessarily even moving around me, but it's continuing to move. So to understand this a little bit, there's a famous experiment that was done some years ago. So they wanted to understand how we see, how the eye actually sees. One of the things that was noticed was that the eye is constantly moving left and right. Very, very micro movements, very small. We don't feel them. And they were wondering what happens if they could stop these rapid movements left and right. So this was done in a medical setting. What they took was they found this tranquilizer that's used by Indians in South America. And that's what they use to shoot the big cats. And the reason that they use this special tranquilizer is because it doesn't kill the animal. It only causes all their muscles to stop moving. But everything else continues to function. I mean, they can breathe, and their heart continues. But all the muscles, apart from those, I don't know how it works exactly. It's a very special tranquilizer. Everything else stops. So they did test, and they saw that one of the things it stops the rapid eye movements. This is not when you sleep. It's not the same thing. This is something that goes on all the time while we're awake. Right. The essential, this is not essential thing. I don't know exactly how it works chemically, but that's what it does. So they did experiments with animals and so on, but the real experiment had to be done with the person. Because until you do it with the person, you can't really get a report of what do you see and what do you not see. So finally, the head guy, he volunteered, and they administered the tranquilizer. He's sitting in his chair. He's strapped because at some point everything's gonna fall limp. Think of like that jaguar falling off the limb, off the branch. This is pretty much what you feel like. And it began to happen, and he couldn't speak at first. So it went on for a while, like for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and it started to wear off, and it was fine. So this is what he told him, that as my muscles began to go limp, my eyes, I began to go blind. It turned out that we can't see if the eyes don't move left and right all the time. That they constantly have to move for us to be able to see anything. And when it's just a picture that's static, and the eyes stop moving, we don't see anything. More importantly, what he said was that if somebody began to move through the room, then he suddenly saw him again. Because now he's moving. Okay? So he's doing the work for him. Okay? This is a very crazy experiment. And I don't know how many people know that. It's something that I picked up in college a long time ago. He's not blind. It's just that you have to have movement. Right. The moment that the other person moves, so they're moving as far as his field of vision. Right. You can't see anything that's static, but the moment something moves, so basically what we're doing all the time is we're doing the moving so that we can see what's going on. So this is a good way to begin to think about what does it mean that if I can stop moving, and yet things continue to move around me, then I become the unmoved mover. But things continue to move around me, I continue to see them, then that which I see is essential. I'm not talking about physically. Physically, it's what's happened to be. Somebody decided he's going to move across the room, so he saw him. Here I'm talking about inside. Inside myself. If I'm able to quiet everything down, and yet something continues to move, so that thing is essential. It's essentially moving. It has, in its essence, a relationship of movement towards it. What's the thing that's moving the most in the world? Now we have to think a little symbolically. So, rocks don't move much. In Death Valley maybe they move. But water moves more, right? Gas, air moves even more. But then you go one more notch higher. So what's essentially moving all the time? Fire. Energy. Energy is always so much in a state of flux that you can't really ever see just pure energy. If you grab air, you can sort of hold water. You definitely grab a stone because it's not moving at all. But the more something is moving, the less you have a grasp of it. First of all, so that's one of the reasons why fire is considered to be the most spiritual. Why the most spiritual? Because it's moving all the time. It's not, and it's hard to grasp it. It's hard to capture it. Where is it going? Where is all the fire in the world going? Going up. It's got this incessant need to travel up. You look at Yoel's picture over there. There you see a person on fire. Right? Where's he going? He's going up. So right away, when you see somebody on fire, he's going up. That's what we mean. That there's something inside that's somehow rising. I don't know exactly what it's called. But it's like why you say, when I feel good, I feel up. And when I feel bad, I feel down. Okay? Because what happened? The fire is not here. Something's missing. So when people want to have energy, they light a fire. That's why it's warm. So it becomes interesting. Somebody once told me that, I haven't had a TV for many years, but they say that the reason they put a TV in the living room, or the den, or wherever it is it's the modern fireplace. It's on all the time, and it's causing something's going on. There's energy. Yeah, so you need a hearth. You need a fireplace. You need something that gives you warmth and energy. So comes the Torah and says, Shabbos don't light these things. Why? Because I want you to get to a different place. Don't make artificial fires. I want you to find a thing that's moving without you contributing to it. If the Torah tells me don't light a fire on Shabbos, it's telling me that there must be a fire that doesn't need to be lit. And that's the fire you're looking for in Shabbos. And say it another way, that you'll be at rest. Okay? Shabbos is for rest. And when you're at rest, then when your eyes stop moving, then you can begin to see whether there's something that's moving essentially relative to you. And that's called the higher will. And when you uncover those things, that you're not revolving around them, they're in a sense, again, not because you're the center, but because they're essentially moving relative to you, then you've begun to find your higher will. I'll say it in a different way. That lower will says that every day when I wake up, there are certain things that I'm missing, I'm lacking. And so I go out and I work and I meet people and I talk and I do and I this and I that. Because I'm lacking something. But the whole idea is that on Shabbos, I have to feel that I'm not lacking anything. All my work is already completed in some way. It's finished. think maybe if there's no work to be done, everything prepared everything, just rest. But if I rest and I don't look for that essential fire inside, so I've sort of missed the whole point. It's what people usually feel. The Shabbos is all about don't. Right? It's all these yisurim, it's all these prohibitions. So what? So and when you keep Shabbos, for me it's become over the years that how much can I sleep? I found out, yeah, no challenge for me. Sorry, no problem. It's true. There is some. What? A day on what? A day up where? Where am I going? What am I looking for? So I'm replenishing, I'm rejuvenating, I'm this, I'm that, and the other thing, but those things are still rest. They're not, so what is the on? The on is discovering the higher will. That's really the Shabbos is. It's called the elevation of the worlds. And so in a moment a little bit more in technical of the worlds. That all the worlds elevate a little on Shabbos. What does it mean that they elevate? That what was before my lower will, that was the will of the heart, I now receive a higher will with the will. I'll explain where each one comes from. They're different. The will, both of them. Will in the sense of what do I want? Where do I need to go? What am I looking for? To say the way I say it every year, in a simple, like one-liner, it's if you're not sure if you want something, or even if you are sure that you want something, you have to wait a Shabbos. If it survives the Shabbos, if you can see it on Shabbos also, so pursue it. But if you can't, if it doesn't go through, if it can't traverse a full stop on Shabbos, and it's not retained and we'll see when on Shabbos you have to see it, then it's not essential. Don't worry about it. It's not what you really want. Okay. Not talking about a car. So it could be that I still need it when the truth is it could be that I'll come to a conclusion after Shabbos I don't need it at all. I'll rethink it, but I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about the material needs. Sometimes it is something material. Something it is like something that's very, very essential. But because there's this thing of not planning on Shabbos, it's not exactly thinking about whether I still need it or whether I still want it. It has to be something a little bit different. In terms of does it still light my fire? And so on. Still turn something on. But the whole point here is not to make artificial fires, but rather to look for the fire that's essential, that's happening by itself, without me moving, without me kindling it. In other words, not my eye movement, but rather it itself moves. By the way, this is one of those places where the difference between a Jew and a non-Jew becomes very apparent. Because non-Jews are not allowed to stop working on Shabbos. They're not allowed to enjoy that rest. It means that the wills are still the lower will. That it's not yet possible for them to reach this essential will. They can't stop the eye. They're not allowed to stop the eye. They can't be an unmoved mover. They can do this. They find this essential will that I have, this essential thing. Why? Because in the end, I'm the only one who chose to nullify this thing by itself. Well, it says that before Hashem gave the Torah to Israel, went to all the nations of the world, and each one of them no thinking. It's a nice, yeah, each one for their own reason. What? No, no. Each one had a svara. Why I don't need this? Why I know already what I want. It's not essential to me. I can continue doing my thing without the Torah. I don't need the Torah. The moment that you add this thing of essential will into this whole story, so that can only be revealed like that. And you still can't be chance. It's not yet. Conscience. Yet still Shabbos is the last thing that we can. We can do everything. Everything. We put children on, we fast on Yom Kippur, we help them, I don't know. But Shabbos is something, it represents this, finding this higher mission, this essential mission in my life. That it's a mission, but it's not the essential. It's important in and of itself. Believe in God. Great question. Like the Levi Tzchak of Medici used to dance every time you said Shalas Anigor. Why? He said, Hashem knows every person. He said, Hashem knows me. But if you would have made me a goy, I would have remained a goy. So I'm very happy that he didn't leave me in that state, because I never would have had the seichel to convert. But according to him, if somebody's not a Jew, it means he has a seichel. You can understand it. He needs to pursue Hashem at a higher level. And I wouldn't. So Hashem had to. That's a little bit of a more mundane way of saying it. Right. It moves it by itself. Right. That's the higher level of joy. Okay. Or it's the higher will, let's call it. Now we're going to call it the higher will. Okay, so to understand the question, like why does it need me in the first place and so on, the simple answer that's always been given is that it's a chesed that Hashem gives. Meaning, it really doesn't need me, like you said. It's going to happen anyway. And it's just Hashem's giving me an opportunity to take part in it. Okay. Right. But say again, I missed the first. Right. Elevation. Okay. If you can do it not on Shabbos, it's a big deal. But the fact that on Shabbos it happens to everybody is like this is the state of the world in general. Right. It's sort of like somebody gave you the tranquilizer, and just know that you were given the tranquilizer. Look for what's moving. Look for what continues to move. What do you mean? What do you mean? Can. Another way of doing this whole class is why we don't need meditation. Yeah, why it just confuses everybody. Can, but and then it's like again, it's like all the theorizing that went on before this tranquilizer was used was very interesting, but in the end, there's nothing like the actual experience. Okay? In the end, if you can get the tranquilizer and then you see what it means that you don't see unless something is moving, then you cop it. The same thing with Shabbos. If something can continue to move even though nothing's moving, or you're at least not moving, you're not creating fire by yourself, so that's the real thing. You don't need any gain. play with yourself or imagine things. Okay. So that's the first introduction. Read this one. Okay. Seven. It's a fair question. The idea here is somehow that the moment Shabbos starts, you're in that state already. Because, I mean, you can continue thinking about, what did I not finish during the week? I think it's sort of like pull the week into Shabbos. But if you're able to let go of that, the idea here is that is the state that you're entering the world or elevated, and if something does come up, if something does continue to move, then it's essential. You don't have to do something very, very special. You don't have to sit there and ponder what in the world am I about. A lot of times, that's what people. So first of all, when is the at least in Chassidus and Kabbalah, there's a specific time that's related to this world. That's when you experience it. The third Suda. It's called the Rava de Ravin. It's called the will of the wills. Why is it called the will of the wills? Because Rava de Ravin is the Ratzon of the Keter. It's the higher will. Ra'ava. Reish Ayin Vav Aleph. Rava de Ravin. So that's why even by Hasidim is almost this need to not eat. Why not eat? Because so that it says about the fourth meal. That if you can eat the fourth meal, so that already the body can't enjoy. The body has had it. Enough of it. So the fourth meal is like that I'm stuffed with it. But the third meal, according to Kabbalah, you don't eat it. Rather, what do you do? Because if you're eating, so you're missing it. Like you're looking again at these things that do I want something? Like the lower wants. You can eat fruit. It's enough. The Rambam writes that all you need is fruit. So people eat some fish. No, there's definitely people who are maktiv, that they wash, and there's even kiddush if you want, and there's all kinds of things. But the bare minimum is almost like I only eat it if it almost comes to me. Let's see if it comes to me. If it comes to me, then maybe it's fine. If it doesn't come to me, it's like one of those meals. I'll say it like this: that we never ever set the table. The table's clean. And the kids suddenly bring something. I don't know. Like it happens. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, I'm not gonna go run after it. The time itself, not a meal. It's a food. Yeah. The Rambam just says you need to have fruit. That's the bare minimum. Some people are not good to have mazonos. You can have like a pretzel. Yeah. Right. Because you do that before something. Ten. This is it. No. That's why it's such a big deal. There's two meanings to why this prohibition is separate. Rashi says it on the pasuk. Esh lechalek yetza or leisur yetza. What is the issur? Is it a smaller issur that is just a lav, meaning that it's just a malchus if you did it, it's just a lav, or lechalek yetza, which says from in fact the fire was mentioned separately from all the other isurim Shabbos, I learned that every issur that I do, I'm chayav v'chatas on every single one of them. But there's definitely a simple understanding that it's just a love. It's not such a terrible prohibition. And it's not like taking something out from one issue to another, which is mamash v'chagua. But it's just a love. It's a lower type. Why such a big deal if somebody, if a woman or a man lights the Shabbos candles late? It's a love. It's just a love. Okay. So why such a big deal if you're late lighting the Shabbos candles? Because even if you say that it's something separate from the rest, so it's almost like what defines everything. So you're saying the whole idea of Shabbos is not to light, is not to do something from below. That's the whole point. The whole point is to wait for something to appear by itself. So it's like I ruined the whole point. So I light before. I have to light before. You can't do it. It's almost like saying, this is what Shabbos means. Here, I lit the candles, Shabbos time. Okay? It's exactly what separates between the Kodesh and the Chol, which is, by the way, why we do the opposite in Havdalah. Okay? It's very symbolic. By the way, Rabbi Vadia, his whole psak is that you have to turn on lights. That's it. You don't have to, not turn off the computer. You have to turn on the computer. The whole point is that you have to turn it on. And then you take Shabbos out by lighting it. By B'davka, now I'm going to light fire, because now it's Ratzon Tachton, now it's the lower will. And it has to do with my needs, with the things that I revolve around, other things. Okay. But we have to go. Now, they're both will. What I have during the week, what I have on Shabbos, they're both will. So, in the end, it will give you a meditation. But you should do it on Shabbos. They're both will. So what is one of the big traditions in the Alter Rebbe, and he brings it in a number of different places. He says, but if the higher will is not dependent on me, so you're just saying that I'm passive. That there's no way that I can really, there's nothing I need to do or can do to make it appear. It either something will move in front of my field of vision or it won't. So maybe I should just, give up. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. So maybe I won't be aware. Maybe I'll be in anticipation and I'll let my guard down and I'll see it. But he doesn't like that. He doesn't like that explanation because then it leaves you, it's not a very Chabad explanation. So what's your role? You have to have a role somewhere. By the way, another way that he calls this is a play in Hebrew grammar, is that there's another word for will in Hebrew. It's avah, aleph bet hey. Will usually is ratzon, but there's also avah, which is to want something. No, avah is with a bit, with vav. Yes, there is avah. One of the meanings of the word avah in the Rishonim is that avah really means to want something. And to love something is actually to want something. Ahava is like an expansion of avah, of to want. In the Tanya, when he describes this, he doesn't mention two wills, he mentions two types of love. He says there's ahavat olam. Ahavat olam means that I look at the world and can that I come to love God the way that the Rambam, for instance, describes. But there's also Ahavah, great love. Great love is a very problematic word in Tanya because it means 18 different things without any elaboration. But specifically here, what it means is this love that comes from above, meaning that I can't awaken it, that I can't make it happen. Or say it another way, this is the will for something essential that I can't awaken. What would it mean that it's essential? That nothing that I do or don't do shouldn't affect the power of this will, the power of this essential connection or mission that I have in life. It has to come from a place that's not determined by my state of mind, by how much I've invested in it, and so on. It has to be eternal. So if it's eternal, it can't be talui b'davar. So ahava she'eina tluya b'davar. There's love that is dependent on my state of mind, on things that I do, what I invest in. For instance, when people get married, so the love, the day-to-day love is dependent on how much they invest in each other. That's the day-to-day love. And if you don't invest, if you don't work hard, you don't get it. On the other hand, what people would like to see is that there would also be an essential love that would not be dependent on what I do or don't do, and that things that are always be there. So a lot of times in couples therapy, what they try to do is not just teach how to invest in each other, because maybe you're not interested in that right now, but try to awaken, talk about this a lot of times, the essential love, which is the reason why you got married in the first place, even though you're not aware of it. Yeah, it's like the Shabbos. You don't know about it. Yeah, that's the Ben Judah. Right. The conditional is dependent on what I do, but the unconditional is essential, and it's eternal. It doesn't change. But exactly because of that, it's so hard to get. Like, how do I find it? Right. So higher fire down. So okay. So you're already like in the Alter Rebbe's frame of mind. And the Alter Rebbe's frame of mind, like all Chabad, is that it can't be that you can't affect this at all. It must be that you can affect it. Except there are different levels of affecting things. There are things that I affect very clearly. I raise the boat and I lower it. So I have a direct relationship with the result. Right? I cause the effect. Affect. I want to affect the effect. That's the right grammar. But there are things that they work symbolically. Symbolically is maybe too much of a word. Really, it's what we call the drama. That's the word in Hebrew. What does drama mean? Drama is permitted on Shabbos. It's very important to say. What is permitted on Shabbos? What are you allowed to do? You're allowed to do things that are indirect. Drama is an indirect action. So for instance, there's a whole question about, for instance, can you close or not close the refrigerator on Shabbos? Right? Can you open it or not open it? Well, if I open it, and because of that the motor turns on, is that okay or not okay? Why is it not okay? If it's drama, it's okay. So there's a question about whether it's direct or indirect. Okay, and so this is a big topic in the halachos of Shabbos. It's a big topic. Right. Why? Because the circuit used to be very simple. The circuit used to be very, very simple. It was just that you opened the fridge, the motor turned on. That's how it works. Okay? But today it doesn't work that way. There's a thermometer. How long has it been that way? It's been that way for 60 years. When were these tefillos written? 60 years ago. Still, there's all these questions about really is it. I'm telling you, this is not an easy topic. I definitely have no command of it. But there's all kinds of dinim in the Gemara. There it's with water. Whether in the Gemara it's like whether you're allowed to stop water and it's moving, in what way are you allowed to stop it, and what way can't you stop it. Because electricity is understood, at least in a simple layman's mind, to be flow of electrons or something like that, they said it's like water. So they learned the grama from these sugyas about water. Is it that way or not? That's a whole different topic. So today, you can probably say most people will tell you, forget about it. You can open the fridge whenever you want, whether the motor's on, whether it's not on. Because it's so complex there. There's so many things that have to happen that the fact that you opened the door or you didn't open it is not the cause. At most, it's an inadvertent second degree, third degree cause of something much more complex that's going on. Okay? So now there's I don't know if you saw this, the Shabbos switch. So you see the Shabbos switch? Yeah. Great. Perfect idea. What does he do? He says, I only move a mechanical separation inside a circuit. The circuit is not a circuit anymore. It's just a randomly generated strobe, meaning it shoots a beam of infrared, whatever. But it does it randomly. And it does it randomly enough so that there can't be any connection. Meaning I would never be able to figure out when it's happening. It could be that it's pseudo-random. It doesn't really matter. So all I do is I move the switch up, meaning I put the barrier in. And the next time that it tries to shoot its strobe, it bounces back, and it switches the state of the light, whether on or off. What? Okay. What did I do? That's grama. That's a beautiful example, an example of grama that nobody can say anything against. Everybody paskins it's mutar, but then everybody paskins it's asur. Why? Because we're not interested in. There's a different question about Shabbos. Okay. So why in the end do you say no? Because my problem is not with whether this is grama or not. Everybody agrees it's grama, but we don't want lights turning on on Shabbos. Period. We just don't want them turning on and off. Right, but we don't do anything. The time of the other week, it's like the candle that I lit before. I don't change anything during the Shabbos. So there's like this thinking that's called horazakin. It's like whatever, different halacha altogether. What? Yeah, you can do it on Shabbos. Yeah, you can turn it on and off whenever you want. What's the other one is the one that you turn. It has a right. So now the question becomes with electric cars, autonomous vehicles that are electric. So now they're in trouble. Because it's going to be entire 1,000%. Going to be autonomous. You're not going to do anything. You're not even going to open the door. The door is going to open by itself. What do you think? They're going to let you open the door? No? What change would that create? So? No different than the refrigerator that has to work more to the same how air went in. Yeah. What? So okay, we're going into a further topic of mine. That's why. But right, no, because it's favorite, so I know how much I don't know. But getting to the point, what does Brahma mean? Brahma means that I can do things that are indirect, that there's no relationship almost between what I did and what the effect is, but it is something that I did. That's how the Alter Rebbe explains how this essential will shows up on Shabbos. It's true that I can't move it, it's essential. But its appearance or not, that is up to me. Whether it will appear or not, whether I will see it or won't see it, that depends on my action. an example. There's a stronger example. There's a guy sitting somewhere in NORAD in America. And he's got a finger on a button. Right? And if he hits the button, some ICBM goes up in the air and destroy half the world. But it has nothing to do with his finger. Right? Nothing. His finger killed the world. What do you mean? That action is nothing like the effect. The effect is, wow. All he did was, how much, what? Yeah, no, it's not even there. You know how many things have to happen for it? It's a million times removed. There are so many safeguards along the way that even the fact that he pushes the button, it still has to go through, you don't know what. Huh? Responsible. But it's grama. There's grama bin zikim, it's called. In Ezekiel there is grama. What does it mean there is grama? That if I push my stroller down this hill, right, and I let go, and it's a big hill, and not stroller, whatchamacallit, agala, agalat pniyot, my, what? No, I'm thinking of a cart with groceries. Use the wrong word. Shopping cart, thank you. So I'm pushing my shopping cart, and suddenly I let go, and the shopping cart goes down this hill, which is a crazy hill. And at the bottom, it hits a car, and that's drama. I didn't do it. I didn't touch the car. But the fact that I left the shopping cart go, that gave it its initial ability to move. And even though I didn't push it, I didn't even do anything. The hill did it. I didn't do anything at all. But still, it's my fault. Can't come of it, it's my fault. There's what? So that's not Nezikin already. That's already Dinei Nefashot. It's more problematic. Nezikin is just that I caused some damage. That's what you do. There is grama, meaning that if I did something removed a few times, am I chayv grama de grama, grama de grama de grama? How many times removed am I still responsible? So the overall rule in Nezikin is I'm responsible. And this is, by the way, there's no inadvertently by a human being. A human being is always responsible for his actions. You can't claim I didn't notice, because not noticing is the problem. You're responsible. For that type of damage, you're responsible. No. This is an example of Nezikin. Nezikin means responsibility for material damages. Now, I'm saying that there are places where grama is your responsibility. On Shabbos, it's not. It's a special rule on Shabbos. How do we learn it? Doesn't matter. What? They're what? That's what I said. Nobody claims that it's usher because of grama. Because of a different reason. Because we don't want lights turning on and off. Maritain, whatever you want. By the way, they did it in such a way that it wouldn't even be Maritain, because it takes at least a minute or something for it to happen. So it's like you could be on the other side of the city by the time it happens. And it doesn't have to be Maritain. They did it smart. In any case, getting back to the idea that there is something that I do that is the grama that causes the essential will to be revealed on Shabbos. There is something that I do. What is that? So surprisingly enough, it's that I have to develop my lower will. But not in terms of what do I want to do, in terms of what car do I want, or this. I have to develop my lower will in the sense of Torah and Mitzvah. Okay? How do you develop your lower will in the sense of Torah and Mitzvah? What does it mean to have will? If I have no will, so how do I do a mitzvah? כלאחר יד. No. I'm forced. I do it because this is what we do. I have no will in it. I have no life in it. I have no love for it. It says, when I develop in the things that I can develop, how do you develop will for a mitzvah? It's a very simple thing. You just have to learn about it. It's not very difficult. Learn about it. Hashem, to me, whatever you want, in whatever direction you want. This is called the will that is the result of understanding. And that's how it's like looking at the world and coming to love Hashem. Why? Because He sustains it all. Now I understand how much He sustains. Before this I didn't understand. And now I understand. Understanding causes interest. It causes will. It causes engagement. And if it doesn't fit for me, this explanation, so it behooves me to go look for another one. Okay? If this doesn't work for me, Baruch Hashem, there's another book on the shelf, and he thinks exactly the opposite from the book I just read, and that might fit me. And it's okay. Why is that? Why does it causes everybody laugh? Why? What do you mean? You can't decide? Those are our explanations. Those are our explanations. Shivim panim laTorah. I can see this, you can see that. That's not what Hashem. Okay, pick your book. Okay, but you're allowed to shop before you pick. Okay? You go around and you see. In the end, this is the one that fits me. I'm a fussy because this is what fit me after a long time. Not that somebody else is doing something wrong. Not for me. Not my cup of tea. Wait, hold on. I'll get there. You say that there's no sound? The sound is muffled. A lot of people are saying that. I guess the mic is had. Yeah, probably too much in the way. Okay, let's just bring it a little bit closer. Okay. That's how you develop lower will. The moment that you invest in something, the moment that you try to understand something, you become interested in it, you have some meaning to it, it develops the will. But like we said, there can be many different versions of what the meaning of this is. And so it's beautiful. Every time you see something new. And sometimes it says about that the fact that the Torah is infinite is not only in its source, but also in its the way it comes down. That it could be that the infinite variance of understanding and meaning, they're part of what makes the Torah infinite, part of the expression of the Torah being infinite. Just to continue, and so you'll understand that there is a connection between the two, the lower will and the higher will. One of the parables that's used is that the lower will and the higher will are the two flames that we see in a candle. I don't know if you've ever heard this one. It says that always in a candle there's the black flame and there's the colored or white flame. There have to be two colors at least inside the candle. Sometimes there's three. But the basic understanding is that there's the black, and then there's all the colors, including white. What's the difference between the two? That the black is caused by the wick carbonizing.
Which one is that, lower high?
That's the lower. And the idea that it's carbonizing is that really it's the price you're paying for having this flame. That something is being lost. just being lost. Nothing's really happening. It's sort of like, it says that the wick is just what allows the flame to hold on to the candle. It won't work. But that's what people mean when they say you're burning the candle at both ends. They're not really talking about the candle, they're talking about the wick. It's the wick that you're burning at both ends. The candle, you're not really burning. What you're doing is you're releasing its energy. It's what's giving off the light. You're basically freeing, you're transforming it from a solid state, or if it's oil, from a liquid state into energy, into fire. So you are revealing its essence. In the same way that the higher will is a revelation of the essence of what my soul wants. But the lower will, the wick, is really just being consumed. It's not giving off light. It's just being consumed. So for instance, you can't stay at home and say, I'll live a good long life if I never, go outside and breathe the air, and I'll only eat very healthy things, and I'll always exercise at home and never do it maybe outside because it's dangerous and whatever, and just separate yourself from the world, and to retain the body. The Yiddishkeit looks at that and says the person's crazy. The body is the wick. You're meant to use it up. Don't look at it like it's something that you have to retain it and that's not its purpose. It's like you're missing the whole point of what it is. The body is consumed like a wick in order to reveal, or in order to be a placeholder for my higher purpose, for my candle, if you want, for the wax, for the oil, for the soul to be able to shine. It can't be, so people say, you have to get 8 hours of rest. 8 hours of rest is good only for one thing. It's only good for retaining the wick, for the lower will. And by the way, and this is a very untypical statement from the Alter Rebbe, he says that the Rambam, as high as he went, he only understood the lower will. He never understood the higher will. It's a very surprising statement. Yeah. That's why the Rambam says in his halachos that you have to sleep 8 hours a day. And you only have to eat healthy things, and you only have to do this and this. Maybe. But for me, that doesn't... The question is whether the Rambam actually lived like this. He didn't. We know he didn't. He's one of the few people that we have autobiographical information about, that he wrote in his letters, and he described this typical day. Right? So his typical day was he would wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and then he couldn't daven yet, so he davened what he could before, and then he got on the donkey, and 45 minutes later he was in Cairo in the Sultan's palace. Then he davened, and from 6 and on, he saw the Sultan and his family and the ministers and until 1 in the afternoon. Then 1 in the afternoon he went. He hadn't had anything to eat yet, and then he got on the donkey 45 minutes back to where he lived. And he says the moment that he would see it from afar, there was always a long line of people waiting for him as a doctor. So he walked into his house and he sat down, and people started coming. He says that in the meantime, his wife, or whoever it was, gave him something to drink and eat as he's seeing people. And this continued until Ma'ariv. And then when it got dark, so he says like around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, people would leave me alone finally. But I was so tired, he was already 60 probably. I was so tired I couldn't even sit. So I had to go lie in bed. And he said, and he would write and learn, he says, lying in bed with his knees up, Prakdan it's called, and the book on, or whatever was on his, and they do that until 12 midnight. And then he turned out the candle, and then 4:30 the next morning, same thing. That's how he lived.
And he didn't reach his higher level.
What?
And he didn't reach his higher level.
At least for us, he said, all you have to do is...
Would
No, what he told us doesn't reach the higher will. As much as this is the most spiritual thing, if you live by Yichot Deot, and how it says to live there, he says that you won't reach the higher will. Okay. The higher will, you have to accept that the body is a wick. You have to accept that you use it in a certain way. You don't have to, you can't abuse it. Okay? Don't abuse it, you need it. But that's not where you get your higher will. That's not where it's going to come from. It's going to come from the flame. The flame is already from the soul burning, not from the body burning. Okay, so that's just another way of seeing that they're connected one to another. You can't have one without the other.
So how do they know they didn't reach the higher?
No, he says he doesn't discuss it. He doesn't teach you how to get to your higher will. If you follow the Rambam, you won't get to your higher will.
They didn't even on Shabbos?
No, on Shabbos he had something, but he never did the preparatory work, if you want, during the week. Or at least, not that he personally didn't, but in his writings, he doesn't teach you how to use the body properly in order to get to the higher will. Okay. So now, getting back to the Gama. The Gama means that if during the week I spend my time trying to uncover the lower will, then on Shabbos the higher will appear. What does it mean that I spend my time trying to uncover my lower will? That's therapy. That's basically what therapy is. And how do you feel about this? And how do you feel about that? Therapy is basically that I have to try to understand what am I really looking for. But what I'm looking for during the week is dependent on what I see around me. It's my experiences. I'll say it another way, you don't do therapy on Shabbos. Okay? You can't. Again, it's just not therapy.
The same, we're developing
Right.
the same thing.
Okay. No, it's not the same thing at all. In therapy, I'm constantly in relationship to my life, to the way I revolve around other things. But on Shabbos, I don't need somebody to talk to me, because somebody's talking to me, so I'm still revolving around other things. So how do you feel about that is a question that basically says, so how fast are you revolving around this? Or in what direction do you feel you're revolving around this? Are you happy revolving around this? Are you not happy? Would you like to move somewhere else? And those questions are questions about the lower will. And they're fine, they're important. Because if you don't develop them, then you can't develop you can't reveal the higher will. Not develop it, but you can't reveal it. Of course, like I said, it's not about how do you feel about, are you happy with how your car is running or something like that. It has to be, how do you feel towards the mitzvot? What do you feel about your avodat Hashem? Those are questions you have to ask during the week. And if you're not happy, so find somewhere else that you will be happy. You have to find a way that this will make sense to you. You have to find the right setting, the right way, the way that fits, and you have to pursue it, and you can't give up on it. Also, it has to do with your relationships, of course, because if your relationship with your children isn't proper, so how can your relationship with Hashem be okay? Because that's part of the revelation of how Hashem is revealing Himself to you in this world. Your children, your parents, your wife, your friends, and all these things, you have to work through them during the week. But it's not enough, because all that is the lower will. It's just to engage me, to bring me to a place where I feel that what I'm doing is purposeful, that I have will to do it, that I really want to do these things. You have to work on them. It doesn't happen by itself. You have to work on it. But all that is not essential, because the essential can only be uncovered on Shabbos. What I'm saying is that the highest type of therapy you can't do. It has to happen by itself. It's a result, the highest type of therapy is a result of the therapy that you do. But the higher type of therapy is something that you can't do. There's no way that you can access it by force. You can't. You just have to wait for the worlds to elevate and then it reveals itself, it presents itself to you. So we said it's something that continues to move, even though I'm not moving anymore.
So it's like that light switch. It wouldn't ever come if you didn't flip the switch, but you have to do the work of
Right.
the switch.
Right. Right. Exactly. That's a gamma. That's what we meant. That if you don't do the regular therapy, you'll never get to the higher therapy. And the higher therapy is always to find my purpose. It's always to find my essence. What is my life about? But this is sort of like explaining why people are so frustrated that they can be in therapy for years and they never finish, or they never seem to come to a place where I can continue by myself. What does it mean to continue by myself? That there's something essential that is eternal. It doesn't matter whether I do this, do that, anything. It just is. It begins to be the thing that the unmoved mover. I find the unmoved mover in myself. What is an unmoved mover? What's the idea there? That there's something that it itself is not moving, but everything is moving because of it. There's a place in myself, the moment that I come in touch with it, I never get tired. What do you mean I never get tired? I can fall asleep at 9 at night because I've been up since 3 in the morning. But I'm not tired of what I'm doing that day. Okay? I'm not drained. I don't feel like I can't do this again. On the contrary, it's the most natural thing in the world.
But it requires a lot of work to get to it.
But what I'm saying is it requires a lot of work, but no work. A lot of work where work is needed, but then you also have to have that place where there is no work, where you don't light a fire. And the fire has to present itself. And then the 7th, rest. So that's what we had this a little bit of discussion. Obviously, it needs more development, but it's saying that a non-Jew in the end remains in therapy all the time. That the world is always therapeutic for them. You need it in order to continue to function from there. Don't be surprised if after a week you need to see your therapist again, and you still need to see them, still need to see them, still need to see them.
You can get it to a place where you don't need that.
Okay? That's what I'd ideally like to.
You could stay in that.
The moment you've uncovered it, it's eternal. There's nothing. It never ends, because it is the essence. I'm not saying they won't have problems, but the essence of the problem won't exist. I mean, the big problem is that people are just in the state of, why am I here? The meaninglessness, or what do they call it, the banality of life doesn't exist. Life is always meaningful. If that I have, so everything else, there's problems. I'm not saying there's no problems, but that giving up on life won't happen. And I would say that in general, all the problems sort of fall by the wayside also, because when this essential will is uncovered, it really fosters everything. It really gives strength to everything to happen. And
Except that you go back into the world which insists on the opposite, so it keeps getting
but you keep understanding that this is the grama, this is the pressing the switch that strengthens the revelation, not the existence, but the revelation of my essential will.
And once you find it,
Okay.
you can't. Is that it? You're good to go.
It's infinite. It's sort of like the question, what will happen when we have infinite energy? Imagine, right, it fuels everything. It gives, okay?
You're going to be a walking, what is it called? Bomb.
There's like, we're not done. There's a meditation at the end to try to come to this, but it's like one of the explanations of why does it say that the Geula, the redemption, can't come until all of Am Yisrael keeps the Shabbos. So really, in the Medrash, it says 2 Shabboses, but it's explained. But it's explained in Kabbalah and Chassidut. Even some of the commentaries on the Gemara say it. That two Shabboses doesn't mean really 2 Shabboses. It means the 2 parts of the Shabbos. That's one way of saying it. The other way they say it is Ma'alei Shabbata and Rav de Ravin. It has to be the end, meaning Shabbos night, which is one thing. After you've been through enough Shabbos, you feel this. Shabbos night is one thing. It's like it's an end to the week. But come Shabbos morning, it's like something entirely new. You're like a different person. It's a different Shabbos. And in Zohar, it's called 2 Shabboses. But I think everybody experiences it. There's 2 aspects of Shabbos. It's the end of the week, but it's the beginning of something new also. So that's the 2 Shabboses. Meaning you have to keep a Shabbos. That's the idea. Why? Because what does the redemption mean? It means that there's infinite energy. Redemption means that you don't continue to, like the way I used to say it to Or Chaya and other places, was that you don't have to do the dishes again. That's redemption. No, it's true.
You just have to feel that way.
No, you won't have to do the dishes. You did them once, it's enough. Why doesn't it last?
Because in real life.
Do I hate dishes? I despise them.
I love it. It's like therapy.
See? You don't, exactly the same thing. You don't have to go to therapy again. It's over.
How do you go back?
Now you just continue. What?
How do you go back into life and never do the dishes again?
Like she said, you don't need therapy anymore.
It's symbolic. You do the
It's not
dishes, but
symbolic.
you're not really thinking you're doing
I don't see it as a symbolic. I'll give you you want a solution? You want a solution? Here's the solution. Why does the floor get dirty? Why does it get dirty? No. So what?
My shoes come from outside.
Have you ever seen the ground dirty? You ever seen the ground? Like you went to to the desert. You ever seen the desert dirty? Why?
In mud from the earth, which is not dirty.
It's the contrast. It's the contrast into your head.
No, because it's not swallowing up what it needs to swallow up. What if I could create a material that every time that you put something that's not part of the material, it swallows it?
Actually, they have a beach blanket now.
Oh yeah? So here's a technical solution. What if there were plates that when you ate on them, they would swallow? What's the problem? Why shouldn't they swallow? Why does it have to stand the outside and have to clean it? What am I saying? That why are we working with separation all the time? Berur. It's called avodat berurim. There's 2 things I have to separate them. I don't want to separate them anymore. It should be avodat yichudim. That instead of me separating the dirt out, it should go in. It should become one with it. In fact, if the material was good, it wouldn't go in as dust or as lichluch. It would become part of the material. That's yichudim. That's what it means. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with the sheriot of the food. It's a milchik plate. It's a milchik plate. I'm not going to make it into a fleshik plate. By the way, we say that part of it goes in, but not the right part. The part that makes it milchik or fleshik goes in. The part that keeps it clean, it stays on the outside, right? The dirt should have also gone. All the leftovers should have gone in also. Why is it not made? How am I? Why do I get dirty?
Because I absorb constantly.
No. If I would absorb, I'd be fine.
No, if I absorb the
Because it's on the outside. That's why tevilah works. It stays on the outside. It's a levush. It becomes a levush. If I were able to integrate it completely, that's yichudim. I know how to uplift it.
So they weren't being
The mikveh will be something else, not the way that it is now. It would be like fire. The fire goes on the inside. So that's why after you're outside the body, it's called nardinu. What? That's a bad image for you. What is it?
Somehow it did happen in the desert.
Right. The clothing they had in the desert,
Yeah.
it was always clean. Why? Because the Ananei Kavod cleaned it. So Ananei Kavod is a levush. It's a levush that takes, like, how do we know that it absorbs? Because when the Egyptians shot at them, the arrows, what did the Ananei Kavod do? They absorbed the arrows. They never made it to the others. They just swallowed it. It became part of the Anan. Okay? So it's like that's avodat yichudim, which is different than everything we're doing is still birurim. So birurim is good. You need it. That's the work that you do on the weekdays. But on Shabbat, boel is asur. You can't do boel. You can only do yichudim. So you can't do dishes on Shabbos. If you do dishes on Shabbos, you miss the whole point. I always tell my wife, if I have to do dishes on Shabbos, I'm out of here. I don't do dishes on Shabbos. She can't do dishes either. I forbid it in my
You
house.
really shouldn't even have to eat so much to need dishes.
Settled. That's the third meal. That's the third meal already. What?
It sounds like you never want to
No. I do every evening. Except for the evenings that I don't. I get one of the kids to do. But in general, I do every evening. On Shabbos, I'm not willing to do any of these things. Why? Because I'm crazy to force the world not to be in Geula. Well, why do I have to on purpose? That's why Hashem invented... No! Sorry, what?
You don't have enough dishes.
I said that's why Hashem invented disposables. You don't like it, which is okay. Eat it in tortillas. Yeah. Why can't you eat the plate? Soup. Who said you need to eat soup on Shabbos? It's a big question whether you're allowed to.
I think if you're really holy, you can just reuse your plate.
Reuse your plates?
From Melody, probably.
So if it doesn't bother you.
No.
For most people, it bothers them. Again, the question is whether it's really absorbing or not. By the way, with the when you use cheres, real cheres, I don't think you need to wash it.
Use what?
Cheres, like
Not
that's not been glazed. The cheres that's not been glazed swallows very well. I don't think you need to clean it. It's earth, so it doesn't go spoil either. But you have to try this. I don't know if it actually.
What did you say we do on Shabbos, though? You said something you do on Shabbos that develops our lower will.
No, the lower will is what's developed during the week. The grama.
You were describing learning about mitzvahs.
No, that's the lower will. I just said it. It's not.
I know, it's not.
The lower will can't just be therapy in the sense of how to. I don't know, of getting along with my neighbor. It has to be also understanding the things that I'm doing.
This is utterly during the week.
But that's during the week.
Learn about mitzvahs on Shabbos.
So you can learn. It's okay. You can learn the when it's Torah. You can learn. There's no problem.
But it's not like I have to or I should.
Saturday night, I think.
As it turns out, most of the time, that's what happens is that the Arizal, he used to learn the sugya 6 ways during the weekday, and on Shabbos he learned it according to Pnimius. So learning it 6 ways in Nigla is like understanding the different meanings in Nigla, and learning it on Shabbos is like revealing the higher essence of it.
Why am I asking that? Because you can work very hard during the week on developing your lower will, and then Shabbos could come and you could just read a book and not. You do have to do something to notice the higher will. I mean, like if you don't daven and you don't.
But you have to daven. But that's.
You do something.
But you daven.
So you are developing your lower will on Shabbos.
No, the davening on Shabbos is not the same.
So what am I doing?
That's why we don't have. That's why the whole brachos of Kriyas Shema.
I can't just develop my lower will during the week and then on Shabbos wait for the light to come. I have to
So you do what people do on Shabbos. That's all.
You should daven on Shabbos, then what have you really developed during the week?
Yeah, for instance. But so let me give something that is connected to the parsha again, and it goes together because the beginning of the parsha has two issues to it, especially in the Medrash. When you read the Medrash, two things that are thrown together almost are this thing of lo tevaru esh b'chol mashvotechem, not to kindle a light on Shabbos, which again we explained is the lower light, is the lower fire, the man-made fire. It has to become a fire that comes revealed from above. The other thing is that it's very connected to Betzalel ben Uri ben Hur. There's a lot to be said about his name, Betzalel ben Uri. If you just think about what's going on here, it's shadow that comes out of light. So Betzalel, comes a shadow of God that comes out of ben Uri. Uri is like a ur, like a fire, like a light. I don't want to get into that. That's for a different year. What it brings about Betzalel in the beginning of the Medrash Rabbah, is that this is where the famous Medrash, everyone knows this, that Moshe Rabbeinu told them to first make the, what is it? So the Moshe Rabbeinu, the order in which he was given the mitzvahs was first of all to make an ark, to make the Aron HaKodesh, and then inside the Aron HaKodesh to put the luchot, to put the tablets, and slowly it works its way out until he builds the Mishkan, until he gives the instructions for how to build the Mishkan. Then it says in Truma, when we started, it says that Betzalel came and he said, that's not how you build something. First, you build the building, then you furnish it. Okay? And that's how it is in our Parsha. In our Parsha, it starts by explaining that first you build the building, it gives all the instructions for the building, and then it begins with the vessels inside. So there's flip from what it was in Truma and Tetzaveh. It says that Betzalel saw this, that first you build the building, then you furnish it. But that's what everybody knows. But the Medrash says exactly the opposite. It says that Moshe Rabbeinu thought that the Iker was to build the building, and then you furnish it. And Betzalel was the one who understood the first. What? No. In the way it's in Truma and Tetzaveh, it's that Moshe Rabbeinu first he tells us about the vessels, and then he moves to the building. And then there's one Medrash that says that why was it called Betzalel? Because Moshe Rabbeinu came with these instructions, and Betzalel looked at them and he said, "What are you doing? First you build the building, then you furnish it." Okay? In our parsha, it looks like what Betzalel said: first you build the building, then you furnish it. But the Medrash in our parsha says exactly the opposite. It says that it was that Moshe Rabbeinu thought that the Iker was to, because that's how he commanded it now. Look at how he commands. Va'yakel Moshe et kol hadad bnei Yisrael. He congregated everybody. Then he told them, first build the building, then make the vessels. And it was Betzalel who understood that no, he asked him, what is the essence of this building? And Moshe Rabbeinu tells him, it's the Aron in the middle. So he says, first we build the Aron. And after we build the Aron, then we can work outwards. So it's only completely different directions in the Medrash. But how to understand who said what. Who was the one who thought first building, then furnishings? Who was the one who said first furnishings, then building? So in our parsha, the Medrash starts that it was Betzalel who first had the furnishings and then the building. What's the connection? The connection is that you can almost say what is the lower fire and what's the higher fire? Not almost. This is what it says. That the lower fire is building the building. And the higher fire, which is what Betzalel saw as the Iker, is the Aron in the middle with the tablets inside. So, Okay, that's what we're really looking for, because then how does this play out? That the Aron becomes the unmoved mover. If you have the unmoved mover, then you can build everything around it. Everything will appear almost around it. But if you start from the movers, you'll never come, meaning the things that are moving, which are, you have to have a center point that is constant, that's not moving. That's the Aron. Okay, but so that's the way the Medrash is usually explained it. That's what he saw. That's how it's explained to Chassidus. I want to take this one stage further, based on a mimer from the Rebbe, which is called Ki Shalcha Bincha. It's Ki Shalcha Bincha from Lamed Chet. Sorry? Right. That's the whole question. What came first? Were the first 6 days of the week, and then Shabbos, which is how we read it in Bereshit, or that in order to begin the 6 days, there had to be a Shabbat before. Okay? Which is why the Torah starts from Bet, because there was something before. So this is there's both sides. In the end, there's both sides, certainly. But Betzalel knew the secret that first you have to find the center point. Once you found the center point, then it's sort of like saying, it's not like the Alter Rebbe. It's not like that you work during the week, then you come to Shabbos. It's like saying that really Shabbos comes first, and from that you work. So again, the Chabad is always from below to above. Okay, it's always the direction. So for the Alter Rebbe, even though he knows both of them, but he says the one I choose to teach people is from below to above. There's also from above to below. It's also true. But let's take something from it. Okay, so the main thing to take from is from the Rebbe's Maimer. In this Maimer in Tafshil Lamed Chet, he explains the 3 words that appear many times in the Torah, and they appear in a certain order always. Ki shalcha vincha lemo ma ha'edot v'achukim v'amishpatim ha'ele. What are these testaments, these laws, and these... I ran out of words. And mishpatim is like laws. So what we make chukim into? These decrees, statutes. Okay? So what are these testaments? Okay, so I'll explain the difference in a second. What are these testaments? How much time? What time is it? So we have to finish quickly. So we'll just do the meditation. So the meditation is very simple. He says in the Maimer, mishpatim, laws, are something that you understand with your mind. The chukim are what you don't understand with your mind.
What's that in English?
Chukim, statutes. Like we said, it's like a decree. You don't have the capacity to understand why I decided that this is how you should do the mitzvah. It says, he even says specifically in the Maimer, mishpatim, the laws have reasons. What does it mean that they have reasons? You want to understand what tefillin are about? Read Aryeh Kaplan's book. Read this book. Read that book. You can find many reasons for why. But after all the reasons, there's also the particulars. The particulars are, why do you have to wrap it 7 times around your hand? Why does it have to be square? Why does it have to... He says, for this, there's no reasons. These are statutes. This is like Hashem decided this is how it is. Ask all the questions in the world, you won't get a good answer. Yeah, you can do all kinds of symbolic games, but it's not like the essence of tefillin. What's the essence of tefillin? The essence of tefillin, I think most people understand it. It's to show that you were enslaved in Egypt. Now you belong to Hashem. That's what the tefillin are. They're a sign that you belong to Hashem. That's what they mean. But why? So a sign. Maybe I should tattoo it in my head like they did in Rome. What? Okay, so, which, by the way, is where it started from. There's those who say very clearly, I think we talked about this here once. The Goyim, when somebody was a slave, how did you show that he belonged to you? You tattooed it on them. So they had two places, the Romans. Where were the two places? One was the arm. This is ancient. This is not something like... And one is back here. If you ever see like a new movies that they did a lot of research historically, you'll see that the slaves are tattooed in the back. This is the place of the keshem, same place. Except we don't tattoo. So we don it, but we don't tattoo it. But it shows that I'm Hashem's servant. That's what it shows. So why like this? Why this symbol? Why that? It's like also with the guys with tattoos. Why is it tattooed this way, not that way? There's no reason. That you can't understand. It's a statute. So the ikar in a chok is that I don't understand why. But then there's the eidot. Eidot is a testament. What is it testifying to? So says the Rebbe, here it's testifying that there's a connection between us and Hashem. That Hashem wants himself to be revealed. How is he revealed? Through the mitzvot. That's the way to reveal him. What's the difference between these three? So he says, the first one is cerebral. It's intellectual. The more you learn, the more you understand.
And which one is that?
The mishpatim. The mishpatim, the laws, the more you learn, the more understanding you have. The chukim, the statutes, they're a decree. You have to nullify yourself before. I don't understand why it's this way or that way. But the eidot, he says, is Hashem's essence, where theoretically you would say there's no concept of it at all. But he says, no. That's the ikar of every mitzvah. That's the main thing in every mitzvah. What is it? That a person who's performing the mitzvah, the actual performance of it, regardless of what they understand, what they don't understand, anything, just the fact that he's performing it, that is the testimony that Hashem is in the world. That's what it is. So now, he gives a mashal for this. The mashal is the luchos. He says, there's two types of writing. There's writing where you add something to the page. You add ink. That's your thought. Those are mishpatim. When I think about a reason for something, it's like I'm adding something to the page. I'm adding a thought into the world. I'm adding a thought into the mitzvah. Every generation, it can come up with new meanings. Every person can come up with new meanings. It's an addition to the mitzvah. The other type of writing is like in the luchos, where it's carved out. Carving out says that I don't want to add anything to the essence. I just want it to be the way that it is. And so I'm not adding anything from myself. That's like saying I nullify myself. I don't want to add any meaning. So I just accept it the way it is. But then he says something I've never heard him say before. He says, that's the chukim. The decrees. I don't want to involve myself in it. I'm like nullifying my understanding. But then he says something I've never seen before. He says, but the fact that you've carved out, you've changed the material. You've done something to it. Hashem did something. To reveal the decree, he had to take away something. What did he take away? He took away my understanding. Something to give a decree, what do I have to assume? That you won't get involved. I don't want you involved. I want you to leave it the way it is. But that was the whole point, that I do it. So how can you leave me out of the picture, he says. So the carving out of the letters, out of the tablets, left them less. I'm less involved. Like the whole purpose of the connection was that I do what you told me to do. But now you're telling me I shouldn't be involved. My head shouldn't be involved in this. I shouldn't understand. I shouldn't try to understand. So something is missing.
But then you told me it's not a higher level.
Okay. So what's the next level? What did they put into the Aron? What does it say? Right, the luchot and shivrei luchot. What's the difference between the luchot and shivrei luchot? Let's think about it. Once it's broken, what happens? Right? They're gone. Follow what's happening. The letters are gone. Right. That's even better. Even better. But we understand. Right. What are you saying? That in the luchos that were broken, there are no letters anymore. It's like it's returned to its pristine state without the letters on it. said, hold on. What he's telling me here is that inside, putting the eidot, and it's called eidot, that's what it's called. You put the eidot into the aron, it's like you're putting the essence itself, the way that it is, pristine without any letters. It's just the material itself. And he says that's Hashem, that's the Atzmos. That's what it represents. That's what he says in the Maimer. So this is a beautiful meditation, to think about ourselves the same way. That what I go through in life, the additions, is like what I get written on myself from all my interactions in the world. It's like to see myself like I'm a piece of paper. A lot of things are written. Everybody writes something on me. And then the higher sense of myself is what's engraved, not what's written, not what somebody else wrote on me, but rather what is written in me, like you would say, like engravings. But the highest self, this is not the higher self, yet the higher will. The higher will is when I'm pristine. I'm none of these things. Like I have no interaction with the world. And the question is, what then can I see letters running around me? Not written on me, not engraved in me, but rather that I'm a block, a solid block of whatever it is, and everything is moving because of this block. And that's what Bezalel saw. He saw that the aron has to be in the middle, and then everything moves around it. So this is like a meditation to try to see yourself this way. That everything that I've encountered, everything that I've come in contact with, that's what's been written on me. Me, the way that I react to this, what I get to in therapy, that's the engravings. But the higher will, the one that's revealed only on Shabbos, when you're not allowed to write, when there's nothing, is just a solid block. Can I see that solid block as just emanating light? That's all it does. And to see myself that way. And that's the light, that's the essential fire. That's the essential fire that comes from above, that is only revealed through me, but I don't create it, I don't do anything with it. So it's like something to think about on Shabbos. If you said, what can we do on Shabbos? Like to try to see myself is just what is shining out. Exactly, that's the point. Like what do I see, even if I'm not moving and I'm just emanating, what is being illuminated, what is being shown?
Isn't it that you're nullifying yourself into God's will and you're just like God kind of thing? That
You're the expression. You're the expression.
emanating
It's called
Hashem's will, not your will.
It's called the revelation. Ken, of course. Your highest will is Hashem's will. So the emanation, you're like you said before. So what is my role? If it's anyway, because it comes through me. Hashem allowed me to be like these luchos, to be these tablets through which this light comes out. That's his favor to me. That I can take part in it. You're right, it's Hashem's will. He's the one who's illuminating it all. But it's passing through me.
He needs it, yeah. He needs it to pass through.
Okay. He could have done it without me. But
And the reason it's broken was because of the golden calf.
okay, because they're settled. That's
Then
another.
we would be inside. If it was
Well,
every day, she's asking why.
Ken, a tzaddik is called Shabbos in general. He's always called Shabbos. Like that he never deals with his lower will. That he's always just emanating out. It says, Rashi said, you saw that tzaddikim are described like in the Tanya, it says it's like a migdalei ol. They're like lighthouses. That their only purpose is to illuminate. They don't need anything for themselves. But there's few of them. There's only a few in every generation. In general, we're all like regular people, but on Shabbos we go up to that level. On Shabbos, all Yisrael are tzaddikim, not just in potential, but in practice.
So then the second luchot, they symbolize the chukim, like the laws, and the broken...
No, so even on the second luchot, where there are engravings, where the engravings are still there, there's what it says, that Moshe Rabbeinu brought it up in a pristine state. That it didn't have writing on it. And Rashi says in the Parsha that that the luchot that he brought up, when he carved them out, there were leftovers. And from those leftovers, which have no writing on it, they didn't even go up to Har Sinai, Misham nitasher Moshe. That's how Moshe became infinitely rich. Meaning that state is a state that you can give and give and give, and there's no end to it, because it's just emanating out. There's the Facebook heard. So it's not. So, okay. So I don't know if I covered everything I wanted, but it's later already anyway.
Adult is like a testimony, a witness.
What?
Like adult like that. The
Hmm.
like testimony or a witness.
It's testimony that Hashem is in the world. If you come to that place where you're pristine luchot, it's like that's what a tzaddik is. That matzdikat boro. It shows that Hashem is here.
There's 2 tidbits here for anybody who wants them.
They're good. They're good all the time, not just.
But they have our ad in it, and you guys won't know about